Today we wrap up our Folk Around and Find Out triple feature series, in which we explore the pastoral horrors of folklore and all the primal fears and pagan myths that come with it, with Ken Russell's 1988 sexual ancestral horror comedy, The Lair of the White Worm. The land is foggy, the bagpipes are piping, and the phallic symbols are aplenty as we journey into Stonerich Cavern to meet the White Worm, but more specifically the horny, vampiric, poison-spitting zealots who worship and kill for it, and face some hard-hitting facts surrounding tradition, religion, and anti-pagan sedition in the Lair of the White Worm.
You're listening to How I Met Your Monster, a podcast that explores the introductions to your favorite movie monsters. My name's Zach.
I'm Danny.
And I'm Casey.
And together we dive into the world of horror to find out how filmmakers have introduced us to our favorite monsters time and time again. This is How I Met Your Monster.
Boss, you opened it. We came.
I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left.
Explorers in further regions of experience. Demons to some, angels to others.
Call you meatloaf! Surprise, Sydney.
Come on, don't be chicken shit.
Welcome to How I Met Your Monster, the show where we discuss the introductions to your favorite movie monsters. If you are not already subscribed to the show, find us on all your favorite podcast platforms. I don't know, I usually just have one podcast.
I listen to the first half of a show on one podcast platform, and then I switch it to all my other favorite podcast platforms.
Yeah, you don't have to find us on all your favorite podcast platforms, but at least one.
Your favorite podcast.
And just on yours.
What's your favorite?
And make sure to follow the show. Either there's a plus button or a follow button or some kind of button, but you should hit it.
Not a
and
minus
follow the
button.
show. No, don't hit minus. You should hit it. And if you have hit the follow button and you'd like to support the show, there's no better way than visiting Fangoria to get all your horror content.
Oh, it's got chills. It's so scary there.
Yeah, it is scary, but it's also fun because you get 20% off if you follow the link shop.fangoria.com/howimetyourmonster. I know it's long, but it's worth it because you get 20% off at checkout. Anything you want in the store, you get one yearly subscription will fit into that 20% off. And you help support How I Met Your Monster so we can continue to talk about monsters. So shop.fangoria.com/howimetyourmonster, promo code How I Met Your Monster. But today we are talking about the Lair of the White Worm, as Danny so graciously mentioned. Graciously?
Yeah, you just mentioned it.
in our
Lair
intro.
White Worm. That wasn't gracious.
I'm just going to say something real quick.
Uh-huh.
I would argue that this is not a horror or a comedy.
You don't think so?
No.
I think it's a horror. What would you call it?
I don't know.
I mean, I think it fits. I think that fits the bill pretty well.
Did you laugh?
At
all?
A couple times.
Oh,
I didn't laugh
I laughed
at
quite
all.
a bit.
Not one.
No?
Not one chuckle came from me.
Okay, well then here's a perfect time to ask. Did you enjoy this movie?
There were two things that I really liked.
Okay.
Is it Amanda Donohoe? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Donohoe.
Okay. She's a babe. So that's number one. And number two, I really liked her house. Yes, I really liked her house. So those were the two things that I really liked
Temple
about this
House.
movie.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't necessarily dislike the movie, but possibly worse, I didn't feel anything about it.
Okay, it's not your bag, baby, as they said in the 1990 film Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery.
1990?
1999? Did I say that?
I thought 1990. I was going to say that's not that old.
Was it even 1999? Maybe it was 97. 99 was The Spy Who Shagged
I don't
Me.
know, but either way, that's two Mike Myers references within 30 seconds.
I think it was 97. Then 99, and then Goldmember came out in 2002, I want to say.
I don't know.
Ooh, here's our double feature suggestion. The Lair of the White Worm and Goldmember.
There you go.
Do you guys know
basically
what?
the same movie.
Do you guys know what else Amanda Donohoe was in? What I recognized her from?
I knew she was. Is it Liar Liar?
Yeah.
Yes. I was like, why do I know her face? It's like embedded in my head.
Is she
She's
like
Miranda.
The bitch, like that's
Yes.
trying to like.
Yeah, that has sex with him, and then she said, "Was it as good for me as it was for you?" And he said, "I've had better."
Oh yeah.
How is she not in everything?
I don't know.
She's so good.
She is.
I mean, she carries this movie.
Yeah, she does.
But I'm sure we'll get to it.
Yeah.
Guys, she's in Starship Troopers 3.
Well,
That's where I know her from.
I've never seen it.
I didn't know there was a Starship Troopers 2.
Me either.
She plays voice of Bug Queen.
Well, did you guys like this movie?
I did, yes.
That's good.
I will, you guys, in case you're going to kill me, I would argue that this might be one of my favorite movies that we've ever covered on this entire podcast.
What?
I could watch this movie right now and have a wonderful time.
Even Zach, who liked this movie, is not agreeing with you.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, of
I
the
sat down.
almost 100 movies that we covered. I mean, it's no House 2, but like, it's not Men.
I can't remember the
or The
last
Wicker
time
Man.
I had so much fun watching a movie.
Wow.
Okay.
I
I
wish
just
I
sat
did.
down, put it on, kind of had an idea of the movie it was. So I was like, okay, it's going to be weird. It's going to be silly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in that folk horror headspace. And there was just something about the energy. It was like, there was like and I don't mean this as a fault, obviously, because I liked it, but like there was like a cheapness to it.
No.
Like
Okay.
it felt, the budget felt low, but then it also didn't. And there was something like something comfortable about that. I felt very warm in the movie and cozy. And
Well, it's
I thought
funny.
it moved. It never stops. You just boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom. You
Yeah.
just get
See,
plot, story, plot,
I
character,
felt like
story.
nothing was happening.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I also have I guess I have a thing for when the promise of the movie is paid off like in spades. So even if I didn't like the story, the fact that they immediately hit the ground running, we'll get into it. I won't go too specific, but like even something when they go to the party and they're kind of giving you all the exposition about the worm with that song that they play.
Mhm.
And then I'm like, oh, we're going to see all this happen and we're getting the setup, and it just felt so fun, and it wasn't pretentious, and it wasn't trying to be anything it wasn't. And there was like a funny little silly confidence to it that really attracted me, I guess.
Man, there's a lot that I want to discuss in everything that you just said right there.
Yeah, I want this on the books. Like I 100% loved The Lair of the White Worm.
Okay. I could see how it's definitely not for everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
I was bored.
Okay.
I definitely
I
want to
love
watch
that we
it
have
again.
flavors. This is going to be a good conversation. What?
Yeah. No, I definitely want to see it again. Yeah, you're right. It's very like, Danny, you're on top. I'm right there in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Leaning more towards the top. I
Okay.
enjoyed it.
Okay.
I think I could have been in a better like headspace or something when I watched it. Might have been a little better, but I did enjoy it. And then Casey's like, fuck this movie.
No, I'm not upset that I watched it.
We've got a top, a
I won't
verse, and
watch
a
it
bottom.
again,
Got
but
it.
I'm not upset about it. It's not one of those movies where I'm like, I just wasted an hour and a half.
Yeah. And like Hugh Grant wasn't a very big star at this point.
No.
And he made it like he had done some stuff. He had been acting, I saw, for like 8 years before this, but nothing.
Yeah, I don't think anything
huge.
really happened until he waxed his unibrow.
Oh.
So
Does he not have a unibrow in 4 Weddings and a Funeral?
I
I guess
don't
not.
know.
I guess I would have
maybe.
remembered it.
Yeah, how could you forget?
4 weddings and a unibrow. But yeah, I will say I think there were some things working in my favor for this movie that made it easy for me to love it. I'm a big Doctor Who fan, so I think seeing Peter
Yeah.
Capaldi, a younger Peter Capaldi playing a role, immediately it's like if there was a bar that was measuring my interest in this movie, it was just like filling up with that, like, oh my God, Peter Capaldi.
Gotcha.
And then there's something also something about seeing a big actor, even though he wasn't big at the time, like Hugh Grant, in a movie like this that feels a little kind of in the world of B movie, I guess.
Yeah. Like when you see Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey in Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Very exactly. You could not have said it better. I could not have. You said it better. I could not have said it better. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. And then also they in those movies too. They play it not straight necessarily, but they don't phone it in.
Yeah, they're given.
So the movie doesn't feel cheaper because they're in it. It actually feels, I don't know, bigger. And yeah, I don't know. I'm realizing I really love folk horror the more movies in this kind of subgenre we're watching. So I'm just, there's so much going on in the countryside. Like I could live in that little cottage and bed and breakfast and be happy for the rest of my life. So
then he says, I'm finding out that I really love white worms.
Well, yeah, I mean, we already knew that.
That's what I tell people. I'm like, let me get into your lair of the white worm. And they're like, no, thank you.
We just got a glimpse into Danny's private life.
I mean,
you like white worms, and he goes.
I mean, I was thinking vagina, but a butthole would work too, I guess, for the lair.
White worm? Aren't you thinking of a fucking Caucasian penis?
Yeah, I was thinking of
yes,
penis.
but then the lair of the white worm would be a vagina or a butthole because that's where it goes.
Oh, I think as a gay man, I went to the booty.
Right, and you know, I'm a woman, so I have a vagina.
You went to the vahoo.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever seen the Gilmore Girls?
I've seen it, but I've seen maybe one episode.
Zach?
I'm familiar with it. I don't think I've seen a full episode.
Okay, but being familiar with it, I know how it's kind of like people kind of make fun of it because of the dialogue style, I guess. Mm-hmm. So like the beginning of this movie felt very much like that, where they're just like talking really fast to each other without thinking about any kind of response. And it's not like they're smart and witty. They're just like
they're dialoguing.
They just know their lines.
And they're talking as fast as they can at each other.
Yeah,
so that made me laugh.
And I was a little taken out of it when I first started this because I watched it on the Roku channel. Which bonus, it was supposed to be with ads, and there was like little dots on the timeline for where the ads would be, but none of them played. So I just saw the whole thing straight through.
Wow.
However, I do like to watch with the captions on, and the captions on this, like, I don't know what happened, but they were like, they didn't like go across the bottom of the screen, like long ways. They were like stacked short, and like, they went like halfway up the screen.
Oh,
and
weird.
I was like, I watched it for like 3 minutes, and I was like that way. And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do.
Oh,
so
that's so annoying.
I had to turn them off.
I watch my stuff with subtitles too, and I was watching something the other day where the subtitles went above each character that was talking.
Oh, I've seen that before.
And that was weird, because I was like, I can't see his face.
That's weird, because that feels like a choice like a filmmaker would make in film to be like, like it feels like a creative choice rather than something that feels practical.
Yeah. But so I turned those off. But I did notice that at the beginning, I was like, number one, I was like trying to keep up with like reading the subtitles because whatever. But then they were very quick with they had clearly learned their lines very well as they were just saying them.
Yep.
But before we get into this, there are some things that I would like to talk about. The Lair of the White Worm was actually based on a Bram Stoker novel of the same title. Which is apparently really bad.
I've heard this.
It's been called like one of the worst novels like ever. Even H.P. Lovecraft I saw was like, Bram Stoker took a good idea and like fucking ruined it. By the way,
he was like, I H.P. hate craft. This
well,
movie.
I wonder why they decided to make a movie.
Well, and that's the thing. Ken Russell wrote this movie based on the book, and apparently in the Bram Stoker novel there is no vampire creatures or anything. But he thought that being like connected with Bram Stoker, you'd have to have some kind of vampire element. And so he added that in to his script.
See, I just assumed that was because it was Bram Stoker.
Yeah. So apparently they're not in there.
I was like, wow, he can't let it go.
So the Bram Stoker novel is based on a real legend called the Lambton Worm. Yeah. And it's worm. It's sort of like a worm, but it's also like worm, like W-Y-R-M.
Well, don't they say in the movie, they say
which means like dragon.
Verm or something, which translates to dragon.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically what this legend is there was a man named John Lambton. And one day he didn't want to go to church. He was like a kid and he was like, fuck this. I'm not going to church. I'm going to go fishing instead. And he goes fishing and he meets this guy. Some people say it's like a guy or sometimes it's like a witch. And they're like, you shouldn't be skipping church because bad things are going to happen if you skip church. Mm-hmm. And he's like,
says the witch.
So the only thing he catches that day is like this weird looking worm thing. So he catches this worm thing, right? And this witch or handsome stranger is like, you need to get rid of that thing because it's going to curse your whole family. Okay. Basically because you didn't go to church. And he's like, fuck you. And he like throws the fucking worm down a well. So he grows up.
What a dick.
Yeah. He grows up to become a full-grown man, and he goes off to join the Crusades, right?
Okay. Oh, so
this worm never. Oh yeah, this was like a long time ago.
Okay.
This worm never died. It just grew bigger and bigger and bigger. And when he's off in the Crusades, the worm comes out and like starts to like terrorize this town, right? It like wraps itself around like this hill, and because it's like huge. And it like eats all the cattle. It eats everything. Like it won't let anything grow. It's basically fucking up this whole town. So all these men try to kill it and they can't do it. But, here's a cool little tidbit. When you cut the fucking worm, the pieces that fall off like go back onto the worm and it like can't die. Right. So anyway,
it's like Deadpool.
Magnet.
John Lambton, Deadpool? Yeah. I thought it'd be like Wolverine, right?
Wolverine's made of adamantium. He can't even get cut.
Oh, what the fuck does Deadpool do then?
Deadpool, technically, I'm pretty sure is like his soul, right? Like he can't die because his soul can't die, basically. Oh, okay. So like in one of, I think the beginning of the second one, he tries to like blow himself up. Oh, but
you think they'd call him a live pool? Because
do you know why he's called Deadpool?
Because he's a pool of dead.
No,
Deadpool.
It has to do with like a betting system for Deadpool.
Oh yeah, yeah,
like
I remember
betting,
that.
like betting, like gambling, or betting like sheets of linen. Okay.
No, gambling. Like there's a like they're all hitmen, and there's like a Deadpool. Like who's gonna go this week?
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
But okay, the Lambton Worm. Every day. So
yes, back to
John Lambton comes back from the Crusades, and there's this worm, and it's like terrorizing the town. He's like, I'm gonna fucking kill this worm, because basically it's my fault. And he sees that witch again, right? And she's like, hey, the only way you can kill this, first of all, you have to like put these little spikes on your armor, right?
He's like, cool,
which we'll get to in a second.
I'm into this.
And then once you kill the worm, you have to kill the first thing that you see.
Oh, God.
And that's the only way to break the curse. So
he's like, why don't you come with me, witch, handsome fellow?
Yeah. No, it's a little more interesting than that. His choices are a little more interesting. So he puts these little spikes on his armor and he's okay. And he says, Dad, I'm going to go kill this worm. And when I'm done, I'm going to blow my horn 3 times to let you know that it's dead. And when that happens, you release your favorite hunting hound to come out to get me. And when I see the hound, I'll kill it and we'll break the curse. So Dad's like, cool, got it. John Lambton goes out, fights the worm. Because he's got all these spikes on his armor, it like sheds all the little pieces and the worm can't get back together. And so he's able to kill the worm, right? So he does. Okay. He slays the worm. He blows his horn. The dad gets so fucking excited that he forgets to send the dog. And instead, he just runs out and he's like, son, awesome, way to go. And fucking John Lambton's like, dude, what the fuck? I told you to stay home. But it's too late then. So he's like, well, we're going to try it anyways. He sends the dog out. They kill the dog, but it doesn't work because that's not the first thing he saw. He cheated. And so the Lambton family is cursed for like 9 generations, right? They can't, the curse is that none of them will die nicely in their beds.
Okay.
Casey, that's not funny. This is a curse that just
Wait.
haunted the Lambton family.
First of all, none of them will die nicely.
None of them will die. Yeah, I had to finish
Comfortably
the sentence.
in their bed.
Comfortably, nicely, whatever. So that is the legend of the Lambton Worm, right?
Interesting.
Oh my gosh, guys, there's so much. So, okay,
Yeah.
I love
get
it.
this.
No, this is great.
Guys, it is going to come full circle and your minds are going to be fucking blown.
I bet.
just wait. Just you
Wow.
wait. Okay. So that was based on, that's what Bram Stoker based his novel on. Okay.
Wow.
So there is a song that was written that basically tells this whole legend. And it was kind of, it's in like Celtic or whatever. But it was adapted for this movie into that Scottish fun music, like we heard in The Wicker Man, right? Which, number one, we'll get into it, but that was really cool to hear like this folk song about this worm. And it was like kind of 80s
Like
folky, but
Dropkick
also
Murphys,
like,
sort of.
Very
Yeah.
Dropkick
Meets-
Murphys.
yeah. But that was like an adaptation of a song that was written about the Lambton Worm.
Cool.
So now here's where it gets crazy. Speaking of The Wicker Man and Scottish fun music, Anthony Schaeffer, who wrote The Wicker Man, took the Lambton Worm legend and wrote a treatment called The Loathsome Lambton Worm, which is a direct sequel to The Wicker Man. Okay.
Oh my God.
It never got made. It was like a 30-page treatment. It involved, spoiler alert for The Wicker Man, this involves Sergeant Howie being rescued by police before he's burned up fully in the thing.
A twist.
And he comes and he has to deal with this fucking worm thing that's come back, and it's like a whole thing. Okay, so
Which is nice because apples, worms. Okay.
yeah, it never got made. Okay. However, a gentleman named Stephen Sloss and another gentleman named Roz Menzies created an audio drama of the Loathsome Lambton Worm. They did this audio drama that is the direct sequel to The Wicker Man, which you can find on podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all this stuff. I think it's like an hour and a half. It's an hour and 40 minutes audio drama. Okay, that's crazy all in itself. Guess when it was released?
When?
It was released on Friday, March 13th, 2020, the day that me and Danny filmed Cottonmouth.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
That's super
That's crazy.
nuts. Wow.
Anyways,
Wow.
I thought it was kind of a...
That's wild.
How
So this
serendipitous.
exists. It's a thing. It's real. We can just listen to it right now on our favorite podcast platforms.
That's right. And we'll even link it in our show notes for you, so you can listen to it. But okay, so that's a little history of the Lambton Worm, which in this movie is like the Dampton Worm. Do you pronounce that D? Or is it just Ampton Worm? It's like D.
When you said Lambton, it sounded right.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
Oh, Downton. The Downton Worm. As in Downton Abbey.
No, it's like D apostrophe
AMPTON.
But don't they say the Downton Hall? And then they say the Downton Worm?
Danny, you've just been watching too much
Downton Abbey.
I beg to differ. I could have sworn they said the Downton Worm.
Well,
Downton
with
Hall.
the accents and stuff, it probably
Who
sounds
really
that
knows
way.
what the hell they're saying?
No, I don't. I mean, you know.
So with all that being said, all that information that I just threw at you
I love
guys,
this movie so much.
are you ready to meet our monster and enter the lair of the white worm?
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready to enter the vagina / butthole of the Caucasian penis of this movie?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So are we all penises in this example?
We're the penises. We're all Caucasian penises. It all depends on what layer you're going into.
Gotcha. I was going to say we could be the people who are going to find the Caucasian penis in the butthole or the vagina.
That's no
but
fun.
Zach has stated firmly, no, we are the penises.
I think that, well, in this particular scenario, I think that we are all the Caucasian penises, and the movie is the vagina or the butthole.
Yeah, depending if you watched it from the beginning or if you watched it from the back and rewound it.
Yeah, I came in from the back.
If you watched it backwards.
That's stupid. You watched it from behind.
Do you watch your movies doggy style? I like to watch my movies butt side. What do you mean? From the backwards, from the credits. Oh, okay.
Oh God.
All right.
Let's go to where are they at?
I don't fucking know.
Do you guys think Skilo ever got his wishes?
Who fucking Skilo?
What the fuck are you talking about?
I've been meaning to ask you guys that, wondering if it was going to land or not. Now I have my answer.
Who's Skilo?
You know Skilo? I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller. I wish I had a
I didn't know that was
girl who looked good. I would call her.
Yep,
I wish
had
I had
no
a
idea
rabbit and a
who
hat
did
with a
that
bat
song
and a 6
until-
foot baller.
Now I do.
Yep. Okay, so it didn't land. Never mind. We'll move on.
Yeah, let's hump this layer.
Get in this layer. Take this worm and get right in this layer. Get in the layer.
Take that.
Take it.
Take that dick.
Take that dick.
I'm gonna put my worm in.
I'm gonna put it in.
My worm in. I'm fixing the worm, yeah.
Fixing the fuck, yeah.
God, that's so funny.
Okay, Danny, can you please, before we begin discussing, can you please read the synopsis of The Lair of the White Worm?
I sure can. All right, the synopsis for The Lair of the White Worm is: when an archaeologist uncovers a strange skull in a foreign land, the residents of a nearby town begin to disappear, leading to further inexplicable occurrences.
Interesting. It's not in the right order, but that's okay.
Yeah. It's in the right order, is it?
No, they started disappearing before that.
We've started talking about our last two feature films in this series, kind of with like the music that opens up these movies. This one is much more like slasher-esque than a traditional folk song like that opened up Wicker Man and Men. This kind of has like those sharp, like,
Yeah.
I remember. So that seemed kind of interesting, where it was like, I don't know. Again, it gave me a vibe right off the bat, like, oh, it's this
movie's folky, but it's not as it's embracing like the modern elements of horror films, kind of. It's because even like when we get to the song later, we mentioned it's like that Dropkick Murphy, like everything's a little more like hip. This is like the Scream version of the Wicker Man. Everything's a little more elevated and wackier and a little more well, I mean, in the sense of like it being more tongue in cheek, and it's not taking itself as seriously, but it's still playing on the same themes. Like it wants that young audience. At least that was kind of like my takeaway from it.
Yeah. So it opens up with him digging, right?
Yes.
In the little hole.
Angus, played by Peter Capaldi.
Yeah, after it shows us the lair.
Yeah. Peter Capaldi.
I love a movie. I love when movies just jump right into it. It's like, we are going to talk about this thing, and we are going to open up on this thing, and we are going to hit the ground running.
Yes, thank goodness it was only an hour and a half.
Unfortunately, it was only.
But I don't mean it like that. I love hour and a half movies.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you do. Are Peter Capaldi and Harold Ramis the same person?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, he's a doctor, right? Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a time travel, and like the doctor. That's like a time travel, and they form into another version. They regenerate. Sorry,
yeah,
I'm using all the wrong terminology. They regenerate into something else. He must have regenerated into Harold Ramis.
For Ghostbusters?
It makes sense. It's funny because Harold Ramis kind of reminds me of more along
Peter
the lines
Capaldi.
of the third Doctor.
Oh.
Because he has like the kind of, I don't know, the hair but I guess Peter Capaldi kind of reminds me of the third Doctor too. So maybe there's something there.
It's not even a conspiracy theory. It's just... It's not even a conspiracy theory. It's just true.
Is it time?
Oh. Let me get my shovel. I think we need to dig up some hard facts.
Yeah. Speaking of digging, this fucking skull of the white worm, right, was the core of it was a real cow skull.
Oh, interesting.
I wonder
And they
why.
sculpted around it. Yeah.
What was the point of that?
I don't know. Structure? I don't know.
Budget?
Don't ask me.
Foam is cheap.
Oh, speaking of budget, there was 2 nude scenes that were cut from this movie. Well, they never got filmed, but number 1 involved the Boy Scout kid when he like stood up in the hot tub.
Oh, I was like, who?
In the bathtub or tub, whatever. You're supposed to see like, you were supposed to see like everything. But I guess like he got nervous the day of, and so they were like changed it to just whatever. And the other one, this is where the budget comes into play. Eve at the end of the movie when she's like hanging over the pit with the white worm, and she's in like this kind of whatever she's wearing. She was supposed to be naked.
She's wearing bra and panties.
Okay, bra and panties.
Just white cotton.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, well, that's the thing, white cotton. She's hanging over there. She was supposed to be naked, and she's like, I'm not doing that. And so the costume designer was like, okay, we can put her in like this silk kind of like nightgown thing. And Ken Russell was like, no, like this wasn't in the budget. She wasn't supposed to have any clothes on. We don't have the budget for that. So just put her in like
we
the most
cannot
basic
go to the
stuff.
store and buy her an $8 slip.
Yeah.
I love how like she should
But
be
were they
naked
paying?
because she's going to be eaten. So I love how the white worm, they're like, no, he likes a little, like just a dash of cotton, like just a little bit. So the underwear works actually.
Well, did they
Had
pay
to
her?
justify it.
I feel like they would have paid her extra to be naked. So you take that pay away from her because she's not going to be naked, and you go buy her some fucking clothes.
See, that makes sense.
You get your ass out there and you find that fucking dog. But maybe they weren't going to pay her extra. I don't know.
I was going to say,
know.
why not just use a body double? But I guess that's the whole fucking point is saving money.
All right. So he digs up this skull.
Oh, so he does. He digs up the skull. So we find out that Peter Capaldi's character, Angus, is an archaeologist, and he's doing a dig outside of this bed and breakfast that used to be a convent, this like Catholic convent back in the day. He points out the fact that he's like, oh, it's like a dinosaur because what could the skull possibly belong to? And it turns out that because of where it's buried, there's no way that it could be time-wise a dinosaur or have lived in that era. So
Because
now,
of how far down it is.
Yeah. So
Or
the
how far down
plot
it's not.
immediately is like thickens. And if you're paying attention to the movie, aka if you looked at the title of the movie, you would know that it's probably the White Worm.
Probably.
And it, spoiler alert,
Dionin.
it is.
It
Dionin.
seems about right.
The
Yes.
pagan snake god.
Yep.
Dionin.
Dionin.
When he finds those coins too, that one just looks like a fucking penny.
Oh, yeah.
And the other one, but I guess it's not. It's like some other guy who they say his name later. Fuck.
Yeah, this was the most. This is an exposition dig. You get everything you need to set up the story. You get the little coins with all the little imagery and symbols to kind of tie it back to whatchamacallit. Wait, are there symbols on it? Or maybe I'm thinking of the mosaic that's on the ground.
Well, you see the
That
mosaic,
has-
but he shows like 2 coins, and one's it looks like one's like maybe like the back of the other one, but one looks
One's
like
got
a fucking penny.
One's
Or
got
a
a snake
quarter.
and the other
Who's
one's
on
got
the
a guy
penny?
on it.
Okay.
Lincoln?
Yeah,
Lincoln
Lincoln's
on the penny?
Lincoln, yeah.
Maybe it looks like a, yeah.
But yeah, so we have
Money.
the coins, we've got the skull, and we know it's this old convent, and we have this mosaic that shows, although I don't know, do we see it then? I don't know. I thought we saw it later, but it has the
We don't
Yeah, we
see
don't
the
see it
mosaic
in the
until,
beginning.
yeah.
Gotcha. Well, we'll get there, listeners, but just a heads up, it tells you everything you need to know about the White
Yeah,
Worm.
but right now we're going to Dampton Hall.
Yeah,
Dampton,
also known as Downton Hall.
Downton Hall. Now we're going to Downton Abbey
For the parties?
for a party, the White Worm party, and you know those things where it's like you see on Instagram where it's like if they made one different decision, it would just like end the movie.
Yeah.
Hugh Grant like cuts the fucking fake worm, and then it's like the end. Directed by Ken Russell. But you do get a nice bit of foreshadowing with that worm costume, because it starts like fucking with Eve, and like you like at the end she's the one that's like about to be sacrificed to the worm.
Notice that's so I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they tell you everything you need to know about the White Worm in that song. It's hard to kind of like hear every little word in that song, but you basically get the idea
that Scottish fun song.
Is there a third Scott? Is there a Scottish fun song in Men? There's a
I don't
Scottish.
think there's any fun songs
I
in
don't
them.
think so.
The singer of this group, though, looks like Sam Smith before they came out as like non-binary and
Oh, really?
started to really.
Oh, yeah.
He looks just like
Yeah.
him.
Okay, so Sam Smith basically introduces us to the tale of the White Worm.
Yeah.
And even so far as saying, like they point out, like, yeah, you have to cut it in half.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, that's how they killed it back in the day. And then we get all the exposition about Lord James.
Yeah,
Played
it was
by
like his
Hugh Grant.
ancestors,
Yeah.
right? That
Is that while they're talking
Killed
over
the worm.
the table of food?
Yes.
yeah.
Because
You could
I'm
call
not
it
going
food.
to lie. Well, I didn't hear any of that dialogue because I was very distracted by what was on that table.
It was
pretty
pickled
gross.
earthworms.
Right, but not just that. There's a container that has octopus tentacles just flowing over the side of it. There's a thing that looks like black jello with an octopus laying on top of it. There's another big bowl of green jello, a green jello dome that has a bunch of blackberries around it. And
the
then
fuck?
there's like a big eel head sticking out of a bowl. Yeah.
Well,
it's weird.
I'm glad you mentioned that because this whole movie is littered with phallic symbols. So the idea, which is funny, well, not funny, but like it's just interesting that is kind of like a running theme through these folk horror movies of
What does a
because, you know, it's
tentacle
all
have
about-
to do with that?
It's phallic. It's like a big old fucking thing. Like
I
Well,
don't
I mean, it's
think
like
so.
like a worm.
I
yeah, like
guess.
tentacles.
But they don't
and-
look like dicks right here.
but the idea of like tentacles, worms,
Yeah,
peni, you know, it's all
you can have a phallic symbol without being an erect phallic symbol.
yeah.
Yeah, but this.
No,
Okay.
Well, floppy phallics.
I mean, phallics are sometimes floppy.
yeah, most of the time they're floppy.
Uh-huh.
And the whole thing with folk horror is about the idea of nature, kind of that regenerative process.
True. Aside
So,
from
like,
dicks,
land
just nature.
fucking, essentially.
Yeah.
You know, it's nature kind of constantly sort of consummating and breeding and birthing and that whole, I mean, literally the lair of the white worm, the hole of the worm, the vagina of the penis. It's all right there in the title.
The vagina of the penis. Yep.
It's the name of its all.
I also hated how much Hugh Grant struggled trying to get those earthworms onto Angus's plate.
Oh, I didn't even
when
notice.
Angus was fucking eating them and they were just like hanging out of his mouth.
He's like has these tiny little tongs and he's like picking up a huge scoop of them and trying to set them on the plate, but they won't come off of the tongs, and they just keep talking. And he's like
shoveling them up. Yeah.
This is like that scene in The Lost Boys, except they commit to it. It's not all in his head. He's like, "How are your worms,
Well,
Peter Capaldi?"
I would argue that the Lost Boys one commits a little more because they actually show them as maggots.
That's true.
This is
And
clearly,
worms.
they're not worms.
And worms. The noodles,
Yeah.
worms. Yeah.
But clearly they're not worms in this.
Or are they? Peter Capaldi's like, I'm full like method. Like I want pickled earthworms.
I won't do this without actual pickled earthworms.
They're definitely Twizzlers pulling peels, all pulled apart.
Covered
They didn't
in
have
like soy
Twizzlers
sauce.
pulling peels back then.
I know.
Number one, how dare you? First of all, Twizzlers pulling peels are gross.
They're gross because they're cherry flavored.
Yeah.
Okay, actual Twizzlers are good.
Strawberry flavored.
Twizzlers pulling. Oh, okay.
That's why.
That's
Twizzlers
okay.
are
Yes.
Good to know.
amazing, and the best
They are.
part of the Twizzler are the little pointy tips. I like
Yes.
to
I
bite 'em
agree.
off,
Yeah.
and
I
the best
agree.
part.
Yep.
It's the
Ooh.
crust.
Ooh, I love Twizzlers.
Best.
So Angus and Mary leave the party, and Mary, by the way, who in a remake could absolutely be played by Kate McKinnon.
McKinnon. Yes, I said the same thing.
Yes. Yes.
Play just
very
as like
much.
dry.
It would, well, it would definitely be more comedic. It would definitely
Totally.
be the actual horror comedy that's supposed to be.
God, I would
For
love
sure.
to see a
funny.
remake of this. Like that would be fun.
110%. I would love that.
Oh my God. But they leave the party. Angus and Mary leave the party, and they're in the woods, and they see this car coming through without its headlights on. And they're like, boy, that was scary. A car. We don't know who it was.
What is this, the wallflowers?
What is this? The wallflowers?
No.
One
no
headlight?
No headlights?
Oh, one headlight. Oh, damn it.
Yeah. Come on.
Damn it.
Conveniently, when they get back to the house, there is a police officer there who is returning a pocket watch of her missing father, which they found in a cave. Found in a cave. Yeah. A famous cave, which the area knows as this is where the white worm, the legend has it that the white worm lived in this cave.
Yes.
But they're like, hey, Copper, we saw a crazy car out there with no
Copper.
headlights on. Go check it out. And he's like, well, I was going to go home, but I guess not. So he goes to check it out. And then they have like this weird, like, which here's part of the horror comedy, this little back and forth where he's trying to get his deputy to come meet him.
I was loving
To like
this
help
scene so
him
much.
deal because he thinks there's an intruder in this house. And the guy's like, no, like I'm eating.
If they ever remake this movie, I would love to see, and maybe it's too on the nose for him, but I would love to see Edgar Wright or someone like Edgar Wright, because that scene alone just fit his sort of like comedy where it keeps going. It keeps like dragging on, but it keeps somehow maintaining.
Wait, you'd like
it
to
gets
see
funnier.
Edgar Wright in it, or you'd like to see a remake directed by Edgar Wright?
The second part.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it could be like a Nick Frost, fucking Simon
100%.
Pegg,
Yes.
Edgar Wright movie. Oh my God, that would be
I know.
awesome.
It's so good.
That would be so good. But Mr. Copman gets bit. So he gets bit by a snake. And at the same time, we meet Lady Sylvia Marsh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm worse than a man. Yeah. Yep.
And the first thing she does is she sucks on the long leg of the law.
Yeah, she does.
And she's,
Woo!
which I think this might be our first like wide angle shot of the movie, which the camera work in this movie is pretty cool. There's a lot of crazy like fisheye wide angle shots that give like this disorienting kind of a look. And I think her sucking on his leg to get the venom out is the first one we see.
Yeah. Nothing phallic about that, though, I would say. Of all the scenes in this movie, sucking on a long leg to get the poison out.
She's also dressed in all white.
What does that symbolize?
I don't know. I just
Purity.
no, because she's the white worm. Are you-
Oh my God. It's in the fucking title.
I couldn't tell if you were joking or not.
I was not joking. So
Okay.
thank you for that. she's asking him like, what is he doing? And this and all this stuff. And he's like, oh, they saw a strange car. I didn't know that was your car. And she's like, she says she changes cars more than a snake sheds its skin. Mm-hmm. And I was like,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
When she sucks the venom out of him, she also doesn't spit it out.
Right.
Like you're supposed to. She swallows. Yeah.
She swallows.
Hey, to each their own.
But he says that, but the cop tells her that something's going on at this cottage with Mary and Eve. Mm-hmm. And so she goes to check it out the next day and nobody's there, but she sees the skull in a
nobody's there, but the door is wide open.
The door's wide open.
Hey, this is the 80s in the country, you know.
Yeah.
I don't care. You can't get mad at somebody for coming into your house and stealing your snake skull.
It's fair.
If you leave your door wide open.
That's a good point.
But that was a very cool, speaking of wide angle fisheye shots, that was cool.
When she picked it up?
Yeah. Yeah, like when she walks in the room and the skull's there like huge and she looks really small, but then she comes towards and it's like, whoa, disorienting. Very cool. This is our first reveal of the monster. I mean, I guess you could, like when she didn't spit the poison out, you could kind of be like, okay, something's up with her.
But that could be a kink and we don't kink shame.
Yeah.
Well, it might kill her.
Drinking venom.
Yeah.
But she has the skull. She takes the skull, and when she leaves, she like spits venom out on the crucifix that's on the wall, and we see her long teeth. But it was being a reveal, like being this like crazy reveal of like these huge teeth and spitting or whatever. It was kind of just like lackluster,
very casual.
Well,
very casual.
Very like
it's just like
fact, like this is what it is. You don't need a setup. You don't need anything.
Yeah. And it was very just like, oh, okay.
How do you feel about that? Do you like that? Was it surprising enough to actually make you appreciate it? Or was it like, oh, kind of disappointing?
Well, to me, it was disappointing because number one, on all of the like posters and movie art, you see like her big fangs. And so like, I knew who she was.
Right.
And so that just kind of like, I was wanting it to be like a little bigger deal, even though I knew what it was. But oddly enough, it reminded me of Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation, starring Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey, which is the reason that we started this show. Was because in that one, when they introduced Leatherface, at that point, it's like the fourth movie. And so you know who Leatherface is. And so when he comes on, he just comes on the screen like real quiet. Like he literally like is like sneaking behind this girl. But it's like not a big deal at all. It's just like, here he is. Okay. We go like, it's not like the first one where he like opens the door and it's like a big reveal. And you're like, holy shit. It's like, we know who Leatherface is. And he just comes on the screen.
He says, I'm here.
And so that kind of reminded me of this, where it's just like, oh, okay, here this person is that I've seen on all the posters.
Right.
So anyways, that's reminded me of that.
I love that.
Yeah, I
loved it.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, it was like Zach, it was the opposite for me, knowing who she already was. It didn't have to be anything extravagant for me, since I already knew. I was just like, oh, okay. Plus,
I mean, what she did was pretty cool. Like spitting acid across the crucifix.
I was like, come on, woman, come on. You're in this house. You're going to walk into this house and you're going to be nosy. That's not cool. And then she spit venom on Jesus and the crucifix. And I was like, all right, okay.
I guess they could have gotten away with like holding off on her reveal even longer, but also kind of just like letting the audience know she's evil. Maybe when the people come home, we see, because when she comes into the house, she kind of glares at the crucifix and walks past it before she gets the skull. Maybe we could have had her just leave the place or leave the room and then implying that she left the house. And then when our main characters come home, they could find the crucifix has like this like poison on it. So it kind of tells you we get it that she did it, but we still haven't seen the physical reveal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think aside from even that part, they kind of, and her being on the, in the pictures and stuff with her fangs out, I think that she just comes off as the villain.
Yeah.
As soon as you meet her.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So why even,
Yeah.
Why delay the inevitable?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I get that.
All right, so we agree. The movie's perfect. Great.
It's not Pumpkinhead, okay?
It is not.
Oh, yeah. It's not Pumpkinhead. But Eve and James, played by Hugh Grant, they come back after a night of party worm slaying. And Eve's like, I'm really tired. I'm going to go to sleep. She goes up and she touches the green spit on the fucking clearly acid, and she touches it on the crucifix. And what the fuck do we watch after this? This imagery
like
is
a bunch of nuns with their tits out.
Oh my god! And there's like so much like fucking like
rape,
sexual assault.
Yeah. Can you imagine trying to get a film career and like your only credit is like tits out nun in Lair the White Worm? Like it's the only thing I ever did. They never cast me after that.
Yep. It was typecast as
that's the thing about like all these dream sequences is they are so like wacky and crazy and fun, but then you're like, well, they're not. Like the visuals are like, they, it has that fever dream quality. So you kind of want to,
well, yeah, and it's old, so it's kind of hokey and but it's really not. The
subject
it's pretty gross.
Totally, it's really fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
That's also the Jesus on the crucifix with the snake wrapped around him. Like that's what's on the coin too that they found.
Mm-hmm. And this is setting up a kind of a reveal later that we'll explore of like this relationship between the Roman soldiers, Jesus, and this worm.
Mm-hmm. And also, we'll just go ahead and say it. Her name's Eve.
Dude, apples, Eve, snakes. There's
also her sister is Mary.
Fuck? What the fuck? I didn't even pick up on that.
You didn't?
Are folk horror movies all the same movie, just kind of like reworked?
Yeah. I guess so.
They all have the same. I mean, they do all have the same idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
But this is where we see the mosaic, because she comes down and at first she forgets what she saw, and then when she touches the fucking acid, she trips on the vacuum cord on the vacuum tube, and it's like
a white worm.
And even at the very first scene when he's digging, when we first see Peter Capaldi, he goes to turn on the water and he trips on the white hose.
Oh, does he? I didn't remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
It's a lot of these little things, but
but
she finally remembers.
I hate it. Happens to me all the time. I'm always tripping over my white hose.
Just dragging on the floor.
This is so stupid, but I remember this when I was younger. Like we were a kid, like 8th grade, and my friend had this older brother who we thought was so cool, and he was always like trying to do like jokes that were like lewd, but like we thought it was the greatest thing. And one time, he was like, "This is not even gonna. This is so dumb."
No, now you have to say.
He was like scratching his like calf, and he's like, "Ah," and his sister's like, "What's wrong?" He's like, "Just my scratching my dick or something like that. Like my dick was itchy." And like the delivery was much funnier than what I just did.
Okay, you scratch my back, I scratch yours.
Just take me out to the fields and shoot me. I told you it was stupid.
Yeah, you were right. But we had to hear it to judge for ourselves.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. No shame, no gain.
But this is where the mosaic that you mentioned comes back into play, because she remembers what she saw, and James is like, was it a snake wrapped around a cross or whatever? And she's like, yeah. He's like, come with me. And she's like, no. He's like, seriously. And they go out, and it's like, it's in the pit where he found the skull. They've dug even farther, and now there's a mosaic of this symbol. So things are taking a turn.
Mm-hmm.
And James already knows something's up. He's like, guys, I'm out of here. I'm going to go investigate. And so he takes off. And when he passes the road, we see this hitchhiker who he just blows by. He's like, fuck you.
Well,
and
I wouldn't pick up a hitchhiker.
Yeah, especially in the rain. Fuck.
I can't even say that because I have. So
have you? Ooh. I've always been fascinated by the idea of it.
Well, it wasn't necessarily hitchhiking. I feel like I've told you the story, but I was like stopped at a red light at like 11:30 at night on my way home from work. No, and it was pouring rain out, and I was stopped at a red light, and this old woman knocked on my window, and I'm like, I shouldn't roll the window down, but I did. And she was like, "Oh, I'm really sorry." She's very sweet, but she was like, "You know, it's pouring rain. The last bus already left. I don't have a way to get home. Can you give me a ride home?" And I did.
So Casey opened up the trunk of her car and let her in.
I don't have a trunk.
Oh. You tied her to the roof.
So, no, I just
You
let
don't
her
have
in.
a trunk?
Well, no, I have a Fiat.
Fiat, that's right.
But yeah, she got in. I took her home. Her name is Velma, which I was like, wow, that's a really fucking cute name. And this means nothing to you, Danny, but Zach, I drove her down to the lowest part of the east side.
Stop.
And it was scary.
If I know the
because
Lower
that's like
East
the
Side.
worst part of Erie.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it was
I did
fun.
not be included.
The whole time, though, I was like, is she going to kill me? Does she have somebody waiting for me to kill me?
Well, what do you do in that situation, Casey? Are you the kind of person who's like, all right, you know, come see, come sa, whatever happens, c'est la vie, all that stuff? Or are you like prepared? Like, I have a thing, I know where that thing is in my middle console that I can grab and stab her if necessary.
I have mace in my door, like the panel thing on my door.
Mm.
So, you know, there's always that, but mace doesn't help if somebody shoots you with a gun, but you know.
Yeah. But it maces them.
It's true.
I think that now, because that was like 10 years ago. So, you know, now I just wouldn't have probably rolled down the window.
Yeah.
Which seems very mean, but you know.
But what if she was a ghost? And if you didn't pick her up, she would curse you.
Yeah, see?
Mm-hmm.
So our official stance on the How I Met Your Monster podcast is if you see a hitchhiker, you should pick them up.
Mm-hmm.
Should you?
No.
If it was
Thank
10
you
I was
years.
going to say,
Where she's in the house.
especially if you're a woman in her early 20s all by yourself.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not. Speaking of asking for age.
I checked. That guy was 23.
The hitchhiker kid?
Yes, because I was like, he does not look like he's 18. This is really fucking gross. So I Googled his age, and he was 23 when this movie came out. So
That's good.
Because Zach called him a Boy Scout earlier. And I was
yes,
like,
that's why
talking
he
I was
is a
confused.
Boy
full
Scout.
frontal nudity, and I was like,
No,
who?
I'm telling you, he's a Boy Scout.
So
That's
but
like his thing. Like he's going to like a thing, right? To like have a Boy Scout meeting.
I didn't think so.
that.
I thought he was just going to dinner. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought he was
No,
just
he's
getting
going
fucked up with
somewhere.
the boys.
Yeah.
He's wearing like a Boy Scout outfit, right? Casey, you have the movie pulled up. See what he's wearing
Yeah, let's go to our engineer in the
in the sound booth.
yeah.
I mean, no, he's wearing a hat that looks like a ranger kind of hat.
Oh, there you go.
Not the same thing.
He could be in the military, Zach.
I'm telling you.
Oh, I guess he is. He's got the little red tie.
Thank you.
Thank you. But
Thank.
Danny, as
Yes.
I was saying, and you were distracted because you were texting Cody. So when she starts to get all weird, I mean, obviously, you know, we already know that what's going to happen, but when she starts to get like real gross with him, you know, I thought this kid might not be 18. This is disgusting. So I Googled his age because I wanted to make sure. And he was 23 when this movie came out.
Oh, okay.
So.
You can drown someone naked in the bath, and then before you decide that you're going to sacrifice them.
Well, I think she's talking a little bit more about like biting his penis.
Yeah, the sexual part, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait. I'm like, forgot this.
You
in
can
my
kill
notes.
anybody. Yeah,
That was-
yeah. Age doesn't matter when you murder somebody. Yeah, so. And she's got like her legs out in the car, you know, like she's got that really short you can see her garter with her.
This movie's so horny. Like, everyone's lured in by, like,
I mean, look at
their
it.
primal urges.
Dude, imagine Sergeant Howie watching this movie.
Oh,
He'd have a tough time.
He would need a bucket for all his sweat.
He's like,
Sylvia. I thought Willow was hot, but Sylvia is like way hotter.
So I would
she's
go
got a way about her that Willow didn't have. Like, she's got like an assertiveness.
Yeah, Willow can't even dance. So let's be real.
Sylvia's there to like get the job done. Willow's there to sort of like turn you on and like kind of get your, your berries
juices flowing.
Yeah.
Oh.
Same principle.
Yeah. Your berries tingling.
But Sylvia's like, she's clocking in. She's like, I've been doing this for years. I know how to fucking roll.
Yeah, and by knowing how to fucking roll, you mean how to play fucking chutes and ladders, snakes and ladders.
Snakes and ladders. So that snakes and ladders doesn't exist, or does it? Because I was literally like, is this just supposed to be like
snakes and ladders exist?
Oh, really?
I think there's like two like chutes and ladders, like snakes and ladders.
Because I like rolled my eyes. I was like, okay, movie, I get it. It's snakes. You don't have to turn chutes and ladders into snakes.
No, it's real.
No,
that's
I think
so
snakes
funny.
and ladders is the original.
Wow, serves me right.
But they are both actual things. Snakes and ladders, and chutes and ladders.
Snakes and Ladders began in 1943.
Okay.
What is a snake but a chute?
Yeah.
It's definitely not a shoot. But that's okay.
It's a chute for its victims.
What is a chute but a hollowed out snake?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So did you know that the chutes and ladders, or snakes and ladders, it's virtues and vices? So virtues
the name of the game?
are ladders where you go up, and vices would be snakes or chutes that you go down.
Oh.
Virtues and vices.
Whoa. It's
Yeah.
like a heaven and hell kind of thing.
Has to do with the movie, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Jesus.
yes. So then they're playing the game. Go ahead, Zach.
That's how I woo everyone with a game of, what is it, virtues and vices?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm like, all right, now let's do this.
But dude, when they're playing that game, he busts out his harmonica.
Yeah.
And she starts to do like this weird like dance thing.
She can't help it.
She can't help it.
Grooves in the heart.
When they were in the car, and she asked him, didn't she ask him if he could play any instruments? And his answer was, I'm pretty good at the mouth organ, which I was very confused by, and I immediately just thought of a skin flute, which is a dick. But then I thought maybe he meant whistling, and I don't know, is a harmonica a mouth organ? Like an organ, like
yeah.
for your mouth.
Sure.
Casey, you are
Perhaps.
ripping this movie open and you are finding
Yeah,
facts.
I'm doing so great. Yeah.
Truly, that went over my head.
Yeah, I think he probably meant harmonica.
Yeah. Okay.
Probably meant harmonica.
Not a dick. Okay. Yeah. Anyway.
But so she lures him into the bathtub. She bites the big one. He gets like
Big old
paralyzed, right? She puts like venom in him, and he can feel everything, and he's awake, but whatever. Doorbell rings. Bing bong. It's James. She's like, all right, sacrifice is gonna have to wait. Gonna drown you, kid. So she pushes him into the water, and he
And
never
she
to be
says,
seen
I'm actually
again.
doing you a favor right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I guess you can read that as, would you rather be eaten or drowned slowly after getting your boner bit?
Well, it depends. I assume that
That's a good
That-
question.
Could
probably
be a slow
more
digestion in the worm.
Yeah, that's what I was
Oh,
going to
yeah,
say. Is
drown
if
me.
they swallow you
Drown me.
whole,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
Because like if you drown, like even though you're paralyzed, you're like, okay, I'm in water, I'm drowning. But like you see a big fucking worm coming up to eat it, like there's a whole other thing going through your head.
Yeah.
Like, fuck.
Yeah.
But James comes to the door and he wants to talk to her about fucking whatever. It turns into like her mental health because they're talking about snakes and ladders, and she's like, I'm traumatized by snakes. But
Oh, yeah.
they like have a connection really quickly, and he's like, can I see you again? She's like, yeah. And then they kiss, just like, what?
It's just,
and you
it's
see
just
her little
man.
snake tongue like really quickly. They're about to like.
But yeah. So I read this scene as we're meeting, because he mentions how he's always kind of away, traveling or in school or whatever, and she hibernates during the winter. So they just naturally, like, their paths just didn't cross. So I felt like that was the movie telling us, like, especially since he's like the last of his, ancestors, that this is like the meeting of the hero and villain. So it felt like very significant. But then I wasn't sure was she wooing him? I guess, okay, maybe I'm answering my own question. So she was just wooing him, maybe aware of who he was, to say, oh, you're going to be my sacrifice. Okay.
Well, I didn't necessarily think it was for the sacrificial purposes. I thought it was more of just like, the more people that I can get to be on my side, the less people that are trying to fight against me. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
That makes more sense.
I mean,
okay.
She knew who he was. She probably knew he wasn't a virgin.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
She just wanted to be like, if he likes me, then maybe he won't come after me.
Okay. And I do have one more question about this scene. She has kind of like a Citizen Kane moment when she throws the game into the fire and she goes, Rosebud.
Rosebud.
What was that? Was the game? Because then she's saying how she's afraid of snakes, but was that a lie?
Wait, did she say Rosebud?
Yeah.
She says Rosebud.
Okay. I heard her say something. I didn't know what she said.
Yeah, she said Rosebud.
So like, okay, so if we're going to like stretch out like her story, like who she is, like her background. So assuming what she's telling us is the truth, she was bit by a snake, quote unquote snake, some kind of thing transformed her into this species or thing. Mm-hmm. And she kind of has mixed feelings about it. Like that actually did scare her. She maybe doesn't love what she's become, but she has to be it because it's taken her over.
I don't know.
She fucking owns it.
I was
She
gonna say,
does,
she loves
right?
it.
Yeah.
I don't understand the Rosebud thing, because then it's like, are we to assume that they live in a world where Citizen Kane exists and she likes that movie? I don't know.
Or in a world where it doesn't
understand.
exist, and this is the Citizen Kane of that world.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because Chutes and Ladders could represent like the innocent time before she was transformed into this creature, and her burning it is to like signifying the fact that like I am embracing who I am and I'm letting go of this like the innocence of my human side.
Man, I think Ken Russell just wanted her to bite some boners.
Yeah, and then was like, Citizen Kane. How could I elevate this movie into that?
Citizen
level?
Kane's a good movie. How can
That's a classic.
So here we are at this wild dream sequence on an airplane. So James falls asleep, and before he falls asleep, he like sees this picture on his wall of this knight in shining armor fucking slaying the white worm, which is supposed to be like his ancestor. Mm-hmm.
Also on the TV.
What's on the TV?
There's like a big caterpillar slithering around and turning into a butterfly.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. He's like watching it while he's like talking to somebody on the phone, right? Mm-hmm. But in his dream, he kind of like walks into this lair, this cave. And then all of a sudden he's like walking up the stairs to an airplane. Mm-hmm. Okay. He gets on the airplane. Sylvia is like the stewardess, the flight attendant. And she like hands him a crossword puzzle, like a newspaper, a crossword puzzle. And he starts like drawing on it. And it's clearly like a snake shape that he's like outlining. Meanwhile, Sylvia is pouring drinks for people. She pours drinks for Mary and Eve's parents who are tied up in the airplane, right? She goes to pour a drink for James, and Eve is also now in the dream as another flight attendant, and she hits the drink out of her hand because she knows it's poison. They start wrestling, right? They all have their stockings on and their outfits, and they're like climbing on top of each other. And James is kind of liking this, and he's watching. He doesn't know how to feel. Is he? Wait, I think he's tied up, right?
Yeah,
he might be tied to the thing, but he still has the pen. He still has the pen in his hands, and
it's his red rocket.
As he's watching them wrestle, his red rocket, he starts to like raise it up, and it's clearly like him getting a boner. Oh my God. The visual is so funny.
It's very strange.
Oh, I love it.
But then there's more fighting, and then there's like he's watching like them stick their legs out of the doorways, and he like doesn't know who is who. He's just seeing both legs. But then like the parents get free and the dad walks away, and he like follows the dad into, now they're like in the cave again. And then he gets woken up by his butler. I forget his name. Do you guys know the butler's name?
I couldn't find it either. I just wrote butler.
Who's very clumsy, by the way. He's like banging
I thought he was
all
up to
his
something.
breakfast
He
stuff.
seemed so suspicious.
Yeah, he did.
But no.
He did.
That was so annoying. I would be so fucking pissed if I was sleeping. Like, it's one thing to be like, hey, it's time to wake up.
But
Then to just fucking clank shit around.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, so irritating. He even says, he's like, I was in a dream. You woke me up from a dream.
So having this dream, James kind of like knows something's up. He's making this connection. And so he gets everyone to go back to this cave. I say everyone, I mean Angus, Eve, and Mary, who have been searching for their parents. He's like, hey, let's go back to this cave. There's clues that I've had in my dream. They're like, we've already searched here. He's like, we're doing it again. James and Angus go off to explore like a certain part, and they see these drawings on the wall.
And one is a fertility symbol. And then they point out the fact that they talk about hermaphroditic creatures, and they specifically point out like earthworms. So it's that idea of the earthworm kind of representing this whole, this thing this through line through all these folklore movies of nature kind of being this, this cyclical nature of rebirth and death. And the fact that they point out that it doesn't need anything else. It doesn't need, these maybe in this case, the human element, any other outsider element to breed and to continue and thrive, to show how much more powerful it is over us. I just thought that was an interesting thing for them to point out.
But Eve is like, I'm tired. I'm not doing this. I'm going back. On her way back to the cottage, guess who's in a fucking tree in the middle of the woods?
Who?
Sylvia. Lady Marsh. In another kind of sexy Sylvia outfit.
Yeah.
And so she lures Eve back to her residence, her big castle. And she's like in a tanning bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was that supposed to be like a modern coffin kind of thing?
I don't know.
Like, look how hip we are. We don't sleep in coffins. We sleep in tanning
later
beds.
We find out she's sleeping in a basket by the fireplace, a wicker basket by the fireplace.
Because she's a snake.
She's the wicker woman.
Wicker man. Oh my God. But she tells Eve is clearly like under some spell. And Sylvia tells Eve that she's immortal and that she totally believes in reincarnation because she has seen Eve's soul before. And her ancestors built their cottage on top of her like convent. And so she's pissed. And so she says, Eve, you're going to go to that phone and you're going to call Mary and say you're on a train to London and you're going away because you can't take it anymore. Eve's like, okay, I'll call. She's under this trance. But while she's doing it, she starts to see the crucifix on her ring and it breaks the spell. And she's like, oh my God, I'm being attacked. Then we get a cool reveal of Sylvia as the snake vampire lady. That was cool.
Licking on that bloody knob.
What?
They show that she has another little freak out sequence where she like a fever dream kind of thing, and it shows Sylvia sucking on a bloody knob.
Ew. Oh my God. And all like the penetration in those fucking sequences.
Yeah.
Terrible. Oh, just terrible. Just awful. Like Danny,
awful.
you had mentioned earlier how like visually they're fun because they're like crazy. Trippy. But when you're looking at what's happening, it is awful.
Really?
Oh my God. So this is the first when she's talking to Mary on the phone. This is the first time we hear, is it Angus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like steaks.
First time we hear Angus and James talking about Dionin, who is the pagan snake god. Mm-hmm. And now things are like fully like the dots are like fully connected. Yeah. And James has this idea where he's going to lure Sylvia to his estate with this music blasting out of speakers.
Yeah.
Dude, okay. It is time for the How I Met Your Monster conspiracy theory of the week.
Let's do it. Hit it. Hit it. Hit it.
You're telling me that NASA is going to kill the President of the United States with an earthquake?
Not exactly the kind of thing a Secret Service agent can, like, just throw himself on top of.
The whole Vietnam War was fought over a bet. Howard Hughes lost to Aristotle Onassis.
This is the third issue this year. Conspiracy theory.
Okay. So Angus is Doctor Who, is also a regenerated Harold Ramis.
Yes.
Right? Harold Ramis, who, let me double check if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, God.
Otherwise, this is dead in the water.
Yeah.
Okay. Harold Ramis, who wrote Ghostbusters 2. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
If you guys have seen Ghostbusters 2, you know that they enter the Statue of Liberty, right?
Uh-huh.
And they soak it with the slime and they blast Jackie Wilson out of the speakers, right? To get
it's perfect.
the fucking Statue of Liberty moving.
Yep.
Okay.
And so Harold Ramis is actually the regenerated Peter Capaldi or Doctor Who.
Or Angus.
Which was Angus, who got his idea from hearing James blast these speakers with the snake music. And he's like, Harold Ramis is like, why do I have this idea? Like, how did this generate in my
memory
head?
that's just there in his subconscious.
Yeah, and he'll never know. That's the thing. No. Like, it's a past life.
Yeah.
And he'll never know how he got the memory.
The doctor
he's like,
always remembers his past, but we can imply. But sometimes if it's okay, like they always say, in Doctor Who, timelines are timey-wimey. So he can be getting things like paths are crossed, and was that my memory? It was such a long time ago.
Speaking of wimey, he's kind of like wormy.
Well, that's solid.
Termy-wormy.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yep.
Yep.
There it is.
So that just confirms our suspicion that Peter Capaldi's Angus is Harold Ramis.
And
yeah, of course.
Lady Sylvia is a liberated woman, and the Statue of Liberty represents liberation. And she is summoned just like the statue. So as the wires are crossed and truths are revealed and the subconscious is opened, that is how he puts it all together.
I thought you were actually going to say that Sylvia is also Zool.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Because they have like the short haircut and the same figure.
And she's Zool. She is Zool,
yeah. So there we go.
I love it. That's the best one yet.
Confirmed.
It actually is kind of perfect.
So good.
to have two. Yeah, I love it. All right, confirmed. All right, judges.
All right, bulletproof.
All right, if we do have a sound effect for a mallet, what is a gavel?
Mm-hmm.
That's it right there.
Like
that's what
in
they sound like.
Ghostbusters 2 during the courtroom scene.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
It all comes together.
Okay, so James has lured Sylvia out of her house, and now Mary and Doctor Who sneak into the house to find Eve. They're looking for Eve, and they find they don't find Eve, but they find somebody else watching a weird television show of a snake lady.
Oh, yes.
Guys, who do they find?
Mama Mary.
Mama Mary.
What's her first name?
Mama Mary Trent. Mary Mama Trent. Mama Trent. Mama Trent. And guess what? Mama Trent isn't so much just a regular mama anymore.
No, she's a snake pyre.
She's a snake.
snake.
She's a snake.
She's a snake.
She's a snake.
But we should point out, before they find Mama Trent, they do see that Sylvia has a statue of the rebel emperor, Marcus something, and that was the face that was on the coins in the dig.
Mm-hmm.
And they realize that he may have been involved in the pagan religion, because they point out earlier that Romans often assimilated other things into their beliefs. So now we're starting to realize like why there was this connection between the Romans and Jesus and these pagan images. So that's what it is. That's why this convent had a direct connection to the pagans, even though on the surface it was Catholic. And it's because of this emperor.
See, I missed all that.
Yeah. So it was this emperor that was the reason why all of this was kind of, this was like the focus, the center of the snake, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It kind of fizzled out there at the end, but you get what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I didn't pick up on that. I knew that they found the statue, but I didn't, I missed that other connection.
He was a Roman, but he was also Roman in his beliefs in terms of roaming
around. Yes. Cell phones.
Yes.
Yep.
Good service. Can't get it in the country.
That's right.
You're not safe.
That's right. And you're also not safe from Mama Trent, because she fucking bites her own daughter, Mary, who I'm sure she doesn't recognize anymore.
Yep.
But she bites her, and Doctor Who has got to suck the venom out.
Yep. Oh, speaking of Doctor Who, I should point out that the creatures in this movie, and I would be remiss to not cover this fact, the creatures in this movie look almost exactly like the creatures in a Doctor Who episode, not starring Peter Capaldi, unfortunately, but it's the first episode with Matt Smith as the 11th Doctor. The creatures have, they're humans, but when they open their mouths, they have these long fangs. Not the same, but similar enough.
Okay.
So I wondered if that was some kind of...
Quick, and like, Danny, I know this is dangerous territory for me to be wading in with you.
Easy.
60 years of Doctor Who, right?
Yes.
But Matt Smith was the 11th Doctor.
Yeah.
How many, so they would go for years before they switched, kind of like James Bond.
Yeah, and there were gaps. There were definitely gaps. There was, in the 90s was kind of like a dead zone. They did a TV movie. It basically ended. Okay,
so it hasn't been every year.
No, it ended in the 80s with the 7th Doctor. Had a TV movie with the 8th Doctor, which also starred Eric Roberts as the villain. And
cool.
Then was rebooted in 2005. And it's been pretty consistent since then. So they call that anything after 2005 is considered New Who. So you have the 11th, 12th, 13th,
New Who,
14th, and then the upcoming 15th. But you also have the War Doctor and then some other alternate doctors.
Okay.
It's very confusing.
Okay, so it's just 60 years since the beginning.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Okay, this is where I got confused. Sylvia has left the estate. She is headed towards wherever, towards the music.
Mm-hmm.
But the person who gets there first is the mom, Mama Trent. And she attacks James, and James, much like the photo on his wall, slices her in half with his sword. And kind of it's so big, and it's such a big swing that he
tips
over.
Can't handle that big old phallic symbol.
That's right.
I'm trying to wield
James, you need to.
Can't do it. Well, I can, but
you need to learn how to handle these.
Exactly. Did you guys get Deadeye vibes from this attack scene?
Mm-mm.
That was all I could think of was when she puts her hands up, very Deadeye, and she just kind of launches into the air, and you have this very cartoonish
Now that
swing.
you say it,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
but in the time I didn't. But yeah. So right after James slays the mom, he's talking to Angus on the phone, and he's like, I got her. It wasn't Sylvia, but I got her. It's Mary's mom. Sorry.
I got her.
And then he's like, where'd she go? Oh man. And her legs and her body and her legs are two different thoughts. That was a cool effect.
Yeah.
But then it leaves you open-ended, because you don't know if the top half of her, who was still alive, if it bit him or not, because it grabs his leg, and then it cuts to a different scene, and you're like, the cop goes to pick up Mary, And he's like, hey, we got to go down to the station to identify your mom. And she's like, dude, you know what she looked like. Don't make me do this.
Well, he says that great line where he says, your mother, you can say she's been fatally wounded. I thought that was my favorite line.
She's
of the movie.
cut in half.
See, horror comedy.
Yes.
There it is.
I didn't laugh.
But he says that James is, they took him down to the station, which they really didn't, because soon we're going to find out that this copper has been bit, and Mary will find that out. She sees the bandage, which is like,
it was a long time ago.
She sees a Band-Aid on his hand, like the same Band-Aid that like she's wearing. And it's like, he must have the same exact injury as me. So I'm just going to run into the woods and try to run away. But so there's this chase ensues. Does that make sense? This chase ensues?
Yeah. This ensues chase.
Okay. So this chase, that sounds weird. So the cop starts chasing Mary around. It's like, dumb it down. So the cop starts chasing Mary, and she gets into a real pickle between an actual snake and this vampire snake creature. But who saves the day?
The bagpipes.
But Dr. Ramis and his bagpipes. And oh my gosh, another great humorous moment in this horror comedy. He's like luring the fucking snake cop away, and he runs out of breath from playing the bagpipes.
It's so funny. It's so good.
And he's like, immediately when he runs out of breath, the snake guy like attacks him. But he gets but there's a pretty cool death with him. He pushes the cop onto, I guess he falls onto this snake statue, fucking pointy thing. He goes right through his eyeball.
Another phallic thing, stabbing through
skull
someone
fucking.
He gets skull fucked in the end.
We're not talking about the sadness, Casey. It's too disgusting.
Danny would love it.
Yes.
I'm sure he would. So we're coming up on our climax here, where where Angus, I'm going to call him Dr.
Angus
Who.
Ramis.
Where Angus Ramis, that's great. Where Angus Ramis, he like takes a bunch of drugs, right? He like fucking shoots up.
Yeah, we don't know
what
what
he sacrifices a mongoose.
Yeah, but we assume it's
right.
Okay. It's going to come to play later.
That mongoose was so cute.
You kind of think like it's some kind of protection, I would think, but we're not sure exactly, like you said.
And we have established earlier that mongoose are the like sworn enemy of snakes. So he lets it loose. He lets his mongoose loose.
So there we go again. But the mongoose doesn't last very long, and it gets flung out of the room back onto him with the very blue. Now she's blue. Sylvia comes out with her fangs, and she's very blue. Maybe that's what the tanning bed. Maybe the tanning bed was actually
Oh my God, that's literally what it is.
What a cool visual, though, when she like bites him and it's another wide angle and her face is like right up next to the lens and her teeth look even bigger. And he's like, he's so far back. It looks so like good. It's so cool. But this is where now he is paralyzed.
We go to
the lair of the white worm, which is just under her house, conveniently enough. And we see Mary is tied up, and Eve is also tied up, hanging above this big pit. All of this is happening, right? At the same time that James is taking like
he's got some crew.
Of like, he does have money. They're like fumigating this fucking, he's like, we're going to pump all this gas into this cave. Because I think there's a giant worm monster in here, guys. And they're like, okay.
And they're like, sure, just pay us.
Just pay us. We'll do whatever you want.
Whatever, you fucking rich people.
And now back to the sacrifice where Sylvia pulls out, which we've seen prior in her confrontation with Eve. She pulls out the biggest, sharpest, I would probably say sturdiest strap-on I have ever seen.
I mean, speak for yourself, but yes, I get what you're saying.
But here's what confused me. She needs to sacrifice a virgin. but she's about to penetrate Eve with this this strap on.
I'm sure that's part of the sacrifice.
Maybe it's a ritual thing because it's not a real penis.
Yeah, she's not going to break her hymen with that. She's just going to fucking destroy her.
She's going to kill her with it.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Gotcha. Okay. But, and here's the worm's coming. The worm is coming.
Yeah, it is.
And I don't mean that.
In so many ways.
Well, it's like a worm coming up a shaft.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Talk about rebirth. The worm, which used to be the penis, is now
from the opposite.
The seed coming out of the hole. It's one in itself. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
What do they call it? The Ouroboros, the snake eating its own tail.
The Aurora Borealis.
Oh, that's what it is. When you look up into the sky, you'll see it. But you have to be in Alaska.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
To get the best view.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a snake eating itself. It's also a penis.
But I know what you're talking about, like the snake eating its tail. It's like a circle thing.
It's sad.
It is.
But Doctor Who is not paralyzed.
No.
Angus.
Angus States.
Angus Ramis is not paralyzed. Thank you
just
for
Angus.
the correction.
Dr. Ramis.
Casey's so pissed.
No, we just don't want to get people confused.
Everyone knows who Angus Ramis is.
Okay.
They're one and the same, much like the snake. So he is not paralyzed, and he cuts off Sylvia's hand and sends her down to the white worm.
Yep. Bang.
Honestly, I don't know why, but this whole thing felt very anticlimactic to me.
Did it now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well.
Maybe it was just because I didn't care about the movie to begin with, but it just felt, I don't know.
I felt the climax energy.
Yeah.
Maybe
I felt climax energy in this scene.
Well, men, they usually get off. It's harder for the woman. So.
Touche. That is
touche indeed.
You nailed it. You nailed it.
Yeah, maybe it was a budget thing. Maybe like if they had more money, it would have felt, because they did kind of, everything was a little bit like, oh, we're here.
Well, I think it was.
And
yeah. I think it was just me.
I read that the white worm, the head of it was a Volkswagen Beetle hood.
Oh.
Wait, really?
Paint like the construction of it. It's like a V-dub. Yeah.
I can see it.
I don't know if that's true, but you can kind of see it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
But where did Angus, this paleontologist, this archaeologist, not paleontologist, where did this archaeologist get this hand grenade? Where did he get a hand grenade?
I wonder would you ever need to like break ground with a bomb if you're an archaeologist? I feel like that's the last.
Well, I think
you'd
you'd like dynamite.
Well,
dynamite
I mean,
he's
James. Him and James are buddies. James may have just given it to him. James has connections.
I mean, James is very Batman-y.
He also pulls it out of his crotch. So.
Are his balls
It's
grenades?
his little sack. He's got like a little sack.
Little sack.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Oh my God.
Talk about rebirth.
Yeah.
More like
P-birth.
He's exploding onto the scene.
Oh.
He's exploding onto the white worm scene.
Ooh.
Yeah.
In so many ways.
Mm-hmm. And it drops the grenade down into the white worm, and it is exploded. But guys, guess what?
What?
It's not over.
Oh my God.
It's not.
James and Angus take a ride back to
Jangus.
It's like Brad and Angelina.
Yeah. Jangus.
Oh, they would be like, I would love to see like another movie with the two of them.
Me too. They had such good chemistry.
That would be good. Mm-hmm. So Jangus goes back to the cottage, and there's a phone call, and there's this reveal, which takes a little bit too long.
Totally.
I think of a reveal. Like you kind of get the point like halfway through, and they're not even there yet.
A lot of setup.
That his antidote serum is not what he thinks it is, because they accidentally switched it. And it is,
someone's going to be charged with negligence.
Mm-hmm. And they're just like, whoops, we gave you the wrong thing.
Sorry.
Hopefully you didn't get bitten by a snake since we gave this to you.
But I think because the stuff that he actually got was to deal with arthritis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's why he didn't get paralyzed when he was bit.
Because it woke his bones
He did get paralyzed.
But it didn't like last, I guess.
Yeah.
Because he snapped out of it.
Yeah.
Maybe.
There was definitely a writer's room meeting where they're like, what would get you up? They're like, well, arthritis. If you have arthritis, it hurts to move. And if you have arthritis medication, it doesn't hurt to move. How about an arthritis needle?
Needle.
And so we find out that his bite may have been more venomous than he thought it was.
Good.
Yeah.
And in a very fun, like, I want to say kind of a Twilight Zone movie ending.
Yeah.
They're in the car and James has that great line where he's like, do you mind if we stop for a bite before we get there? And he's like, sure. And
he's like, why not?
And then it's
sure.
Yeah. Oh man, what a cool ending. Great movie.
I know. I'm conflicted on the ending because, like you said, they make such a good pair. I want to see them like go on adventures together. But on the other hand, you would miss out on that great little twist.
Well, I read somewhere, and I don't know, this is just someone's opinion, but that because the worm was destroyed and like the curse was broken or whatever, that the venom didn't take.
Oh.
No, lame.
But I don't know.
Because Angus looks hungry. He looks like he's like...
Yes,
he does.
The second he knows he was bit, he's like, I may as well lean into it.
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah, I like that a lot better.
Yeah. But, you know, all you need is if you wanted to do a sequel with them, you just have like one little thing where there's the opening scene is like picking up right where we left off. There's a battle between them and James gets the upper hand and is able to fix him. And then the movie is about them kind of dealing with the aftermath. I don't know. Yeah. There's always a way out.
Yeah. So that is the Lair of the White Worm.
Yes, it is.
Do you guys want to talk about our favorite reveals in the Lair of the White Worm?
What's going on here?
I don't see anything anywhere.
That's how they get you. They're under the goddamn ground.
So this is what I have for our reveals. I've got the first time that we see Lady Sylvia spitting on the crucifix and we see her teeth, right? I guess partially you could say when she's sucking on the long leg of the law and
it's suggestive.
and she doesn't spit
Maybe
out
not
the venom.
so much a reveal.
Yeah. So I'm going to stick with her spitting on the crucifix. Yeah. Not as flashy as I would have liked it the first reveal to be, but still. I would say when Eve touches the spit on the crucifix and sees all the visions for the first time. Yeah. Because then we're seeing like the snake or the worm on the cross.
We also
and
see
all
that
stuff.
this thing has like powers. So it's like establishing quite a bit.
Yeah.
The hot tub hitchhiker / hot tub Boy Scout /
got me all horned up.
Hot tub 23-year-old. Yep. Eve's phone call, because that's when she snaps out of it, and then we get another reveal of Sylvia in the tanning bed with her teeth. Mary and Eve's mom, Mama Mary Trent, Mama Trent, in the estate watching TV. And then the titular white worm, I would say. Oh no, when Sylvia comes out, oh my gosh. Okay, hold on.
Okay, we got onto something, people.
Mama Mary Trent, and then we have the police officer.
Oh, that's
who is revealed to Mary to be a snake vampire thing.
Yes.
We have the reveal of Sylvia to Genghis, because not Genghis, it's not the pair of them. It's just Angus Ramis.
Just Angus.
Dr. Angus Ramis. Because he had never seen Sylvia as the snake before.
Oh, that's right.
As the vampire before. So to him, that's a reveal.
And that is the first time we see her blue, like as the full version of herself, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm afraid I just blew myself.
There's got to be a better way to say that.
And then we get the titular white worm coming out of its lair for its dinner, for its sacrificial dinner. What was your guys' favorite?
I'm going to stick with my original one. My favorite reveal was when we really first see when she spits at the crucifix. When it's like, oh,
yeah,
monster.
Okay.
Got it. It is. We talked about how it is very like, oh, sudden. Kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna go with that one too, because she spits on a crucifix.
Okay.
I love how we're all gonna pick
Different
the same
approach.
one, but it's like for a different angle.
Well, Zach's not picking that one.
I'm not going to pick the same one, Daniel. I'm going to pick the blue Sylvia when she bites Dr. Angus Ramis, mainly because of the camera work.
Yeah.
In that fisheye lens, and she's like real, just, it's so disorienting and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go with that one because it's just a cool visual.
It's gorgeous.
And it is kind of a scary moment too, because she comes out and you're not expecting her to be blue, which throws you off. And it's like, what? And I didn't think he was going to get like bitten that easy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And she's smart. She's like, she's one-upped the heroes. She's anticipated their next move. You know, she's playing chess, they're playing checkers, and she's here to, raise some worm.
That's right.
Raise some worm.
They're playing, she's playing snakes and ladders, and they're playing checkers.
And they're playing shoots and ladders.
Shoots and ladders, yeah. But okay, those earplugs, like I've worn earplugs before, and they don't totally, you can't hear nothing.
But Zach, I have a question for you.
Yeah, that was the issue with this movie.
Yeah. But I'll ask you this. Have you ever worn those while listening to bagpipes?
No, but I think you could probably, I think they would probably do even worse at bagpipes.
Yeah.
What if that's the one thing they completely cancel out is bagpipes?
Maybe they were bagpipe.
Works great on bagpipes.
Yeah.
I can see the package now. All right. Well, now it's time for a segment that we like to call The Real Monster.
Run, run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man.
You're a monster.
I'm not the monster here. You are. You and the rest of that fairy tale trash poisoning my perfect world. Now tell me, where are the others?
Eat me.
Casey, who do you have for Real Monster?
It's Angus. Because
Dr. Angus Ramis?
Listen, when he was quote unquote playing those bagpipes, he wasn't even trying. Okay. He wasn't moving his fingers at all. He wasn't even making it look like he was breathing into the tube. Okay. He wasn't doing anything to make it look like he was really playing those bagpipes.
God.
So that's
Casey,
all.
I didn't know you knew so much about bagpipes, but I'm impressed.
I mean, it's obvious when you're playing an instrument, like I wouldn't know if you were moving. I wouldn't know if you were moving your fingers incorrectly.
Yeah.
But I know that you're not moving them at all.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
All right. God damn
That's what I
it,
had.
Peter Capaldi. I was supporting you this whole movie.
Damn it.
The least you could have done.
Yeah.
It's your big hero moment.
Try.
Well, speaking of Dr. Angus Ramis, I too have Peter Capaldi and Doctor Who as my real monster.
Fuck me then.
For sharing needles.
Oh.
Yeah.
He fucking takes his medicine, right?
Yeah.
And then I doubt that he brought like a bunch of different syringes. And then he gives the medicine to Mary, or is it Eve?
I think.
To
I guess
Eve,
Mary got
to
bit
like
too.
Stop the venom. And that seems, and I'm like, okay, dude, there's no way you like switched out needles and like properly sterilized everything.
Well, to bring this back to a thing that we talked about earlier about budget, maybe there was no budget. Maybe they wanted a scene where it's like a sequence of him cleaning the needles and like that whole process, and they just couldn't afford the time for that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It's like a 10-minute scene, real time. Another phallic thing though, stabbing, stabbing people. Everything is about puncturing, stabbing, entering, inserting.
Everything in this movie.
Good God.
Mm-hmm. The VHS case of this movie was just a big penis shape.
Well, think about that. You got to put the VHS into the box.
Oh my gosh. Into the clamshell case.
Oh my God.
Clam being like the vagina. Oh my
gosh. Is that offensive or is that just the common term?
Jam out with your clam out.
Jam out with your clam out.
Hang out with your wing.
Yep. I also have James as a real monster for not using his manners. I'm all about manners.
Mm-hmm. Zach's our politest host.
For not using his manners in the cave when they give him tea and sandwiches and he doesn't even say thank you.
Well, you know what?
And then going back to the real monster in fucking Men, where she puts her fucking apple on the counter, he just leaves his sandwich in this cave.
Yeah.
For like
the worm comes out and just gives it a look like, serious?
My thing was, I didn't know why they were eating sandwiches. Eve, would you fancy a sandwich? Why didn't you fucking eat before you left?
I know.
Why are you waiting? Why are you eating in the
thing.
cave as soon as you get there?
It's
You've never packed tea and sandwiches on a hike? On a escapade?
But they just got there.
But it's tea time.
That's what I'm saying. They could have eaten in the car before they walked into the fucking cave.
Yeah.
They had a budget for that.
But it's character development. You had to see that James didn't use manners and all that stuff. That's all that was for.
That's all that was.
Danny, who is your real monster?
I have two. I have people who play crosswords with a pen. Don't do it.
Oh.
That's fucking...
Why? They're smart. Don't be jealous.
It's not smart. That's it's just too risky.
They know what the words are.
But sometimes you think the word is this word and then it's not, and you're like, oh, that was good. You got me. Are they going the simple route, the obvious one, or is it a twist? And my second one is the gate latch outside of Sylvia's thing that's sticking out of the ground. Because if you do not...
How do you know you're not going to pop a tire?
Exactly. You have to drive so perfectly, and it is so unnecessary to be sticking out that much.
You can't pop, it's in the center. The car fits just through the gate.
But what if
How
you're
are you
not
going to pop a tire?
I could fit two Fiats in there. Okay.
I guess if you're driving a go-kart.
And I guess this is, the UK, so they are known for their, what do they call them? Not Fiats, but...
Gate latches.
No.
Mini Coopers?
Coopers, yeah, thank you.
Mini Coopers, yeah. That's true. They are tiny cars.
But yeah, I was like, oof.
Gate latch.
I swear when he pulled in, I heard a ding. I was like, oh.
You probably did. It's like 10 feet out of the ground. But
you need like a Inspector Gadget car where you can
the
pick up
exact
the
same
side,
thing.
pick up the middle.
Every time a car goes through, you just see it raise and then lower. It's so funny. I had the same image. I was like, what is that from?
Oh my God.
But yeah, that's all I got.
All right. So that is the Lair of the White Worm. And that concludes our Folk Around and Find Out triple feature series.
It does.
I had fun with this one.
I had a lot of fun.
This was good.
I did too.
This was a good one.
I learned a lot about folklore.
I did too.
And I hope you guys did as well.
Yeah.
Listeners, if you have seen The Lair of the White Worm, the cinematic masterpiece from Ken Russell, let us know.
I thought it was a masterpiece.
We want to hear about it. Let us know. And find us on social media. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, anywhere you enjoy getting your social media content. Where can our listeners find you two on social media?
I am on Instagram at Wolf Mother Casey.
Danny?
Yeah, I'm on just a whole plethora of social media platforms at my name, Danny Salem, DANNY SALEMME. That's 2 M's, like the candy. Melt in your butt, not in your hand. Melt in your lair, not in your hand.
Ah, nice. Wonderful.
Nice.
And you can find me on social media at Zach Winsick. Our next episode is going to be a fun holiday special.
Oh, yes, it is.
But that's it. I hope you found your way out of the worm's lair.
Yeah,
and
I hope so too.
Thank you for joining us on our Folk Around and Find Out exploration And I hope you folk around and find out for yourselves that it can be a lot of fun if you just let go.
Folklore is where it's at.
And that's all, folks.
Oh, nice. Thank you all for listening. Now go meet some monsters.